listening?
I just don't care.
No one is ever kidding Michael Cole.
Of course he can roll a grudge forever. This is wrestling.
Welcome back to This Is a Work. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am here tonight to introduce your host, Robert, the distinguished gentleman Brafford.
Thank you, David. It is good to be here talking about AEW's WrestleDream. With me, as always, is my co-host and tag team partner, Chris the Fashion Plate Barnes.
No one is safe.
And joining us for this episode is the host of This Is a Takeover, Shelby Death Ray Patterson.
Hey, how are you guys?
That's why I said no one is safe.
Because I am here. Of course, no one is safe because we just take over whenever we're here.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for joining us, Shelby.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, so like all AEW pay-per-view cards, this one is pretty loaded up, so Shall we just dive in?
Yeah, were there 3 or 4 total pre-show matches?
4 matches on the pre-show.
Right.
Yeah. And as of the last couple, we've sort of stopped breaking down the individual pre-show matches. We just kind of run over them,
Sure.
give kind of a collective summary. I score them collectively, and we move on.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So the pre-show matches for WrestleDream were Atlantis Jr. versus Brian Cage for the Ring of Honor TV Championship, Anna Jay versus Harley Cameron, a tag team match with the Acclaimed versus the MXM Collection, and an 8-man tag match with the Conglomeration, Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly, and the Outrunners, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd, versus the Dark Order, Alex Reynolds and John Silver. And
I'm sorry, what are you laughing about? That's their
I'm
names.
sorry. I'm sorry, Robert.
They've been performing for decades. I think we should all be used to their names.
Of all the wrestling names to get a giggle over.
His name is Turbo something.
Turbo Floyd.
Turbo Floyd. Okay. No, the reason why I'm giggling is because there's a channel that I watch that for their Patreon subscribers, they dress up as this guy called Turbo Jack, and it's the quintessential Outrunners looking wrestler. Like, they've literally nailed it on the head, and this was before they were even like popular. So that's all I'm seeing is just that one British guy that has like curly blonde wig and is just like yelling at the screen like Hulk Hogan. Like, it's...
Well, that's okay. That reaction also reminded me of the John Mulaney line where he goes, "It's okay to laugh. That's a ridiculous thing."
It is. I mean, they are ridiculously over though. So I totally understand.
Absolutely.
And I think
they've committed to the bit so hard.
Absolutely. And I think having them, which I feel like this for the last pay-per-view, the last pre-show match really does draw you in.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like this is the same with this one, like with the Conglomeration, like they're a very over team, and then you have the Outrunners that's very over. Like, even though the story might not be there with the pre-show matches, like at least it's a good kind of match that will like be like, oh, if I haven't bought this yet, like I'll buy it.
The one thing I probably would have switched, and I've got to mention the last 2 competitors in that 8-man match, Arya Daivari and Tony Nese with the Premier Athletes.
Yeah, so sorry I interrupted you with my giggle.
No worries, I didn't even get to who accompanied them to the ring. That's another 1, 2, 3. Oh, good Lord, that's another 4 guys right there.
I'm telling you that, I mean, I applaud Tony Khan for getting like almost all of his roster on every single pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, get that money, but at the same time, it's a lot of people.
But yeah, I do think that was a great one to close out the pre-show because that is just a lot of people that popped the crowd. Personally, I would have switched around the order of the earlier matches because you did have 2 tag matches with a lot of kind of comedy-heavy spots back-to-back. Mm-hmm. I would have probably swapped Anna Jay and Harley Cameron with the Acclaimed and the MXM. So there's, 2 relatively straight singles match, funny tag match, relatively straight singles, and then Gonzo funny tag match.
Yeah.
Which, again, all the matches are fine on their own. Deep pull with the MXM collection, they'd announced that they would have a 3rd man accompanying them to the ring to offset Daddy Ass being with the Acclaimed. And we were, in the room, we were talking, is it going to be, like, what free agent could it be? Is it going to be Mustafa Ali? Is it going to be Dijak? Is it going to be... And it's Rico.
And I went mild, just personally, because I did not know who that was. And now knowing who he is, it makes sense, obviously. But at the same time, I was just like, oh man, but Dijak would have been so funny.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of all the ones that we came up with.
You got your hopes up because you were thinking of like the people you wanted to see
Yeah,
perform.
exactly.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking in terms of like the gimmick.
Yeah,
I mean, and he's a solid dude,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he very, very much still in shape, but at the same time, I was like, oh,
Surprisingly, so he looks really good.
yeah.
I mean, cool.
Honestly, everybody looked good on the pre-show.
Oh, yeah.
Love that Brian Cage has a singles title for the first time since coming to AEW.
Got that one wrong for sure.
Yeah. Anna Jay looking very sharp after her sojourn in Japan. She's always had sort of screen presence. She's always had like athletic ability, but there's been a certain lack of fluidity. It's like she's
Yeah.
80% of the way there, and it feels like she's locked in now. And Harley Cameron's also really picked up her game. I think mainly just because it's not even a matter of technical skill. It's just she seems like she's down for like all of these crazy bumps and spots. Like she's a very game in-ring partner.
And just really funny, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Like, I think she gets that side of it. But I think Anna Jay is now challenging Mariah May.
Yep, they are setting her
Yeah.
up to be the next challenger for the women's title.
So it makes sense as why she was on the pre-show.
Yeah, we also had a couple of backstage segments on the pre-show.
Just a couple.
Yeah, Mercedes Moné, despite not being on the card, showed up wondering where her locker room was and got into a little stare down with Queen Aminata, setting up a match for them on Dynamite. And then
As a retail worker, this spoke to me.
Did it? Where's the thing that's not mine but I need?
And then let's see, you have Okada is backstage talking about being there to support the Elite. Kyle O'Reilly comes up to challenge him
Oh my god.
and asks for a match. Okada says no. Kyle's like, oh, I'll try again later. Walks away and then immediately comes back to attack him.
Oh no, it was even better because Okada basically brushes him off, walks off, comes back in to deliver the bitch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot
And then
about
Kyle O'Reilly was like, how do I respond to this? And he just starts hitting him. He's like,
Yeah, Kyle's the one who starts hitting
That's
us,
right.
which is great.
Yeah.
It was just perfect.
No, I think it's great, and I think that will be an interesting feud going forward
Yeah.
for sure, and good for Kyle too, because
Yeah.
I mean I like him with the conglomeration.
That's something
but-
I like about AEW versus WWE, where it's like when those standoffs happen,
Yeah.
and there's always the one person who gets the last word or does something. More often than not, the guy in WWE who gets hit with that or accosted like that has to just kind of take it while the other person walks off. Mm-hmm. And in here in AEW, it's more or less like, I don't have to take that from you. I fight for a living, and then you start.
it goes full hockey fight. Like
Yeah.
everybody's just swinging.
But then it makes it so that Kyle's not there
Yeah.
for the rest
Yes.
of the show
So-
because he
Yes.
gets escorted out, right?
They
Yeah.
both do.
The eternally jacketless Christopher Daniels shows up and ejects them both.
He always just looks like he's just come from chaperoning a school dance.
It's
Right?
also
Like,
it's also perfect that he looks extremely upset when more people are fighting backstage. Given
He's like,
given what's happened.
again?
What fresh hell is this?
It's like because the last major one got him suspended somehow.
He's like, guys, I can't keep doing this.
The decision to have him be the guy who's in the middle of every backstage fight is definitely a decision by the
Choice.
Bucks.
Yeah.
You're right. He really is like the skittish teacher chaperoning like a school dance. It's just
It's like, guys, if they told me that if I let people keep fighting, I'm gonna get fired. Like, you need to stop.
But yeah,
pour that bottle out. I saw it.
4 fun matches. The only really bum note I remembered is just on the end of Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. Anna hits her with a gory bomb, which is her new finisher. And then when she rolls over for the pin, Harley was selling a little bit and had one shoulder up, and she's pinned in a way that she can't get her left shoulder down easily. So the ref visibly reaches out, grabs her shoulder, and pushes it into place so he can count.
Like, really forcefully
Yeah.
too. Like, it wasn't even like, hey, you should probably get this. Like, he just rips her shoulder like down to the mat and then counts the 3.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's dead center in the camera just from the
Yeah.
angle they're
Yeah.
using. So again, it was a good match. That was just
That was
one of those things
unfortunate
that
camera
happens.
angle.
Yeah.
Like, they shouldn't have caught that for sure.
So collectively, I give the pre-show 2.5. Just fun, does the job, gets people hyped for the pay-per-view, and and a few segments to set up things people are going to be seeing on Dynamite going forward. Mm-hmm. All right, the main card opens with Jay White making his return to the pay-per-view against Hangman Adam Page. Oh, man.
I love that he is not Adam isn't with anyone,
Yeah.
right? Like he's just on this solo, like drunken depressive journey, like alone.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, spoilers for the end of this, like he keeps losing,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like he seems directionless, but at the same time, like I want
all he
to
has-
keep watching, like what's
All
going
he has
on.
to hold on to right now is his rage.
Yes, and that's the only thing keeping him warm at night, right? Is his
Yeah.
rage.
Aimlessly furious cowboy.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with him being in this space for a little while because he's
Sure.
just so good at it. But when they do eventually decide to start moving him back towards a face, like his journey to find himself again is going to be another amazing one because I'm not sure there's anybody in the male roster in AEW who just puts as much thought into like where their character is week over week and how their destination is as Hangman Page. I
Oh,
say
man.
male roster because Tony Storm's journey
Yes,
is
I was
just
about
the
to
best thing
say.
across the company. But
Yeah, no, that's a good distinction because I feel like he has kind of played this like I'm a drunken, depressed millennial cowboy and I'm directionless and then I find direction and then I lose it really dramatically and then I go through the whole cycle again and then each time he loses it, it gets more and more desperate. So it's like this is the lowest, right?
Yeah.
Versus like I mean, I can't think of like any stakes right now, but whenever he would lose before, like you're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, he's sad. He's drinking again. Oh no, he shouldn't do that. But like, no, he set a guy's house on fire this
Yeah.
time. Right. So there's really there's no he's depressed. It's like, oh my God, like you need help. Right. So I like the depth of the story that he's just continually kind of telling the same story, but it's like a little bit different, like every time.
I'm just excited eventually because I see it almost clear as day that if they're able to swing it right, there's going to be this amazing burying the hatchet between him and Swerve for some sort of team up in the future.
Oh, for sure.
oh my gosh, the journey to get there.
It's going to take some
I
doing.
was
Yeah.
about to say.
Look, we've all done things we're not proud of, except for Swerve, who seems to still be really proud of all the things he did.
And everyone else too, because again, he's the one that started all this,
Yeah.
right? Like,
So
Just today, I
weird.
saw a tweet where they talk where he was on an interview talking about doing the break-in to Adam Page's house, and he said the baby was ugly.
oh my God.
Kid needed some
He
smack
called-
talk. That's all.
Like, if you needed any more like fuel to this fire, like just adding that. Oh yeah. Also, by the way, your kid's ugly. Like,
It's so weird to think because I was looking back. 1 year ago was the first match between Swerve and Hangman. Just their singles match
Oh,
was
wow.
at
Really?
WrestleDream 2023. That was the first time that they started that feud. And
that does not seem like a year ago.
right, that and there's another one later that we'll get to. But just the things that have changed since then. But also look at the journey that Swerve had from there. And somebody said like
Yeah.
this match, if Hangman is putting Jay White in that same direction, where's he going to be a year from now?
Yeah, I mean that's the key to a good wrestler, I think, or a good worker in general. It's like you're elevating whoever you're with.
Yeah, there's clearly a lot of trust in Hangman when it's like, all right, we want to get this guy into the main event scene. We're ready for his big singles push. We need you to go out there and have a match that makes him look like $1 million, which isn't to say that, the other guy isn't talented, but just the level of confidence they have in,
Yeah.
in Paige to do that.
You're right. And Shelby, you're absolutely right. It's like he's done such a good job of elevating these two formerly diabolical people
Yeah.
into sympathetic positions.
Well, yeah, because even with Jay White, like before he got injured and had to go away, like he was a heel,
Yeah.
right? Like he was the leader
And
of this.
there'll be more of that later.
Oh, for sure. But like I think that just speaks to
Yeah.
people forgot about that right during this match because they were pulling for Jay,
Yeah.
right. And so I that's what I love about wrestling psychology. I think is that like the suspension of disbelief, right? That
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I did see this earlier, but now I see you in this situation, and now I'm cheering for you versus booing you. Like it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, being willingly misdirected is a huge part of being a wrestling fan.
Absolutely.
And it's just top to bottom. This is a great match.
For sure.
Great story with Jay White targeting Hangman's leg to neutralize the buckshot. And even before he does that, there's an awesome bit where Hangman goes to the outside to try to set it up after hitting Jay in the ring, and Jay stumbles closer to the rope, so he's too close for Hangman to go over and hit the move. And so, it's just, and I think when Hangman tries to knock him away, Jay catches him and hits him with a dragon screw through the ropes or something. But
there's one spot where he they're on the ramp.
Oh,
right,
that looked brutal.
I mean, I can't remember what the name of the move is, but Jay just lifts him up and brings him down knee first onto the edge of the ramp.
I saw it described as a knee breaker, which seems straightforward.
Apropos, yeah.
It's a knee breaker, but normally you're just slamming them onto like the ring, into the ring. It's just
but it's set up for everything else because then he couldn't do the buckshot at the end, right? And so that gave Jay enough time to counter and
very smoothly. That he just as soon as Hangman lands, Jay catches him in the Blade Runner and spins him around for it. It was just that was such perfect positioning.
Jay White's great.
Yeah, this is hopefully the start of really strong things for him. And going by what happens on Dynamite, he and Hangman, similar to Hangman and Swerve last year, are not done here.
Yeah.
I gave this one a 4. Just very strong start, good chemistry between them. Jay White goes over, and we are off and running. Next up, we come to Mariah May versus Willow Nightingale for the AEW Women's Championship. A little sad that this is the only women's match on the card. I hope... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I kind of just have mixed feelings about this whole match in general, because on the surface, it was very well executed, and I feel like a very, very good match. I just love Willow so much, and I just want the best for her.
Yeah.
And I heard that this was the plan all along, because there was rumor that it was supposed to be Britt, and then she got sick. But apparently that wasn't the case. It was always supposed to be Willow at WrestleDream. And I feel like Willow's supposed to be in-game. To me, in my mind, is what it feels like. And having her... And I know AEW does this a lot, where they give you that match that you think that you want, and you're like, wait, I don't want this yet. Like, this is later. And then they run it back again, and it's still good.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like maybe that's where they're headed with it. Like, Willow will, rise up and, eventually get there. But I don't know. I hate that this was the only women's match, obviously, but I do kind of feel weird about this happening now versus later.
They are going to need to book Willow kind of strategically going forward, because she just lost her last big feud against Chris Statlander.
Right.
And then she just came
You
in.
mean despicable heel Chris Statlander?
No, I don't remember her being despicable.
Oh, no, she's shiny babyface Chris Statlander.
That's weird.
I know.
It's
just forget about that other stuff. All of the story that we have, built up before.
Stokely Hathaway was like the worm tongue, and as soon as he got pulled away, it was like when Theoden comes back to life in the Two Towers.
She was like, what was I doing? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was an alien. That's right.
That would actually be really hilarious if she just decides to be an alien again.
I will say I really did enjoy Nigel McGuinness on commentary. Not that I don't for any other match, but just for Mariah May matches, he's so hilarious to me. And I wrote down, there was one that he kept saying all these different things, which I think Mariah has said, and he was just, quoting her. The one that really stuck with me was the whore you can't ignore.
Yeah.
These are the things that she's calling herself. And then right as he said that, Willow does a pounce onto her and throws her across the ring, and Excalibur goes, the pounce you can't denounce. Right after that. And it popped me real hard. So I wrote it down.
Honestly, there is an art to being...
Nigel was into it too.
For sure.
There's an art to being kind of the drooling commentator.
The simp?
Yeah, to do that towards female talent without sounding gross. And Nigel lands that very well.
He has a really good balance of it, because if you go a little bit too far with it, then you're like, ew, okay, you're getting close to Jerry Lawler territory, and I don't like it.
I was about to say, one, the accent helps, and two, as long as you don't lapse into a Jerry Lawler impression, you're pretty much golden.
As long as you don't say the word puppies on air.
Oh, jeez. As long as your voice doesn't raise several octaves as you do it.
That's true.
Audience, you're about to hear a drink uncorking.
And I removed my headphones.
Beverage is Drambuie. It's what I was drinking the night of WrestleDream, mixed with scotch for a rusty nail, but I'm just drinking the Drambuie neat right now.
And just for listeners, it is very sweet. I was not expecting it to be that sweet. But, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. There's a lot more I feel like that needs to be done with just the women's division in general. And I feel like I've been saying that for ages. And I feel like I say that for every women's division, for every promotion. So it's not just AEW. But I don't know. I feel like there's more that could be done with this because Mariah kind of has felt like she's been in kind of a stalemate ever since she won the title.
Yeah.
So there hasn't really been a lot of like credible people, and I feel like they're just kind of throwing people out here till Tony comes back.
Yeah, I feel, or I think she's also called out Mina as somebody she wants to come back as well. So it does seem like you're right. They're holding off until they get a few more pieces back. I'm willing to give them a little grace because the story of Timeless Tony and Mariah building up to Wembley was such a long-term thing that, okay, yeah, fair, they need a little time to reset. But yeah, I think we're definitely at the point where it's like, okay, show us where you're going on this now.
Well, and she hasn't really defended it that much. So I feel like she did need this win, right, to seem like a credible champion, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Willow, I feel like, has gotten over despite not really holding. I mean, she's held titles, but 2 out of the 3 of them, I think she won by default, kind of. Because for the one that she beat Mercedes was actually supposed to win, but she shattered her ankle, and they had to improvise, and she ended up winning that one.
It wasn't that she was supposed to win. They created it for her.
No, exactly. Yeah. So Willow got that
Yeah.
instead, and then they, Mercedes won it back. But I don't know. I know that Anna Jay is now going to be going against her, so now we know that because we've seen Dynamite. But I feel kind of weird about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that Willow is credibly in the main event, that she's always been over with the crowd. She's always had the charisma, but I do think she's locked her in-ring style to the point where she's like, when they do put the title on her, and I definitely agree with you that that's where they're going eventually.
Yeah.
She's going to be up for that. But also crazy to think, speaking of where things were a year ago, Mariah May had not debuted in AEW this time last year. She showed up in November 2023, which...
That also nuts, and also nuts fact. Like, she just feels like she's, 1, been here forever, and 2, like, she's just such a natural on this roster that she just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And you talk about strapping a rocket to someone's back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seriously.
So we haven't talked about the match itself much, but it's really good. They play off each other well. A lot of good strikes from Mariah. A lot of just power moves from Willow. Mm-hmm. Really like the go home on this. Willow tries to get Mariah up for a super power bomb on the ropes, and Mariah turns it into a Hurricane Rana.
Yes, she does.
And then hits a running knee and a Storm Zero, which she's still using Tony's finisher.
I love that so much.
For the pin.
It makes sense, right? Because if they're going with the storyline that they've been doing, like, she's stealing all her stuff. Yeah. Right? So it makes sense that she would steal her finisher.
Yeah, so good match. I agree, the story drags it down just a little bit. I think it's time to get some focus on Mariah's title reign, but I give it 3 3/4. Just very strong. Next up, we have Jack Perry defending the AEW TNT Championship against Katsuyori Shibata. Let's see. What'd y'all think of this one?
I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I enjoyed the end of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that the match itself wasn't great. Like, I like both of these guys. And Shibata, in particular, I feel like is someone that I'm excited to see more from him because we've seen him with the conglomeration. And now with him, being pushed as a singles guy, like, I think it'll be really good. And Jack Perry's great, too. But I feel like the end of this match is kind of what everybody's kind of talking about, really. Yeah. I mean, again, the match itself was good, but I can't really tell you a lot about what happened.
Yeah, it's very much a match that's going to be remembered for the follow-up and everything that's setting up.
Yeah.
I will say, the match itself was pretty good. It's only 9 minutes, 20 seconds. Not a long match. But a very nice, concise little story of kind of Jack, the kind of insolent upstart, trying to match chop for chop with Shibata and then quickly realizing he can't do that.
I was hoping secretly that he was just going to pull his phone out and just do Google Translate, like just in the middle of the match. It's just such a fun bit, like just that he's committed to, like doing all of his promos through Google Translate.
Yeah, so it... solid match all the way through. Again, Shibata's on offense for most of it, and Perry's just doing the thing where he like rolls out of the ring to get some breathing space and tries to go back in and gets swatted down. Ends in a kind of creative way to protect Shibata while keeping the title on Jack Perry. He gets him in a rear naked choke and is rolling backwards, and Perry manages to roll him in such a way that Shibata's shoulders are down for 3 seconds. Just long enough. And as soon as he realizes it and tries to break the hold, Perry slumps to the ground, but the ref's already counted it.
Yeah, I think I totally missed it. Like, it was something that I guess I looked away for a second, and then all of a sudden I heard the bell ring. So I was very confused, until they played it back and showed it. So it was a very kind of subtle way to end it, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's a nice way to be like Shibata's, smart guy, good ring awareness, very dangerous, but it's just like he was too focused on one thing for 1 second or for 3 seconds. And so, Perry retains.
It also emphasizes that Perry didn't win decisively. He won via circumstance.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I really do love where they're going with Jack Perry. Like, I feel like he has, now that he's been to Japan and he's come back, like, it has been a complete reset. Because I feel like they started with him as a singles guy and that it didn't really hit. And then now all of a sudden, like, with this scapegoat stuff, like, it really is working.
He really, I feel like, could break away from the Elite. I think he's
going to.
Yeah,
I really feel like he's going to.
It's only a question of does he do it before or after losing the TNT title, which, speaking of, after the match, Perry attacks Shibata, starts hitting him with the belt, and then Daniel Garcia comes running down to chase him off. Garcia stares down, or let's see how this goes. I think after he does that, MJF comes out, and Garcia turns to face him, and then gets attacked from behind by Perry. And MJF is, taking a moment to beat down Garcia. He pulls out the Dynamite Diamond ring, which he recovered after it was lost under mysterious circumstances.
I do love the line of like, you really, you shouldn't have told me that you pawned it at a pawn shop in Buffalo because I found it, aka I bought a new one. Yeah. Right? Because it did get stolen, right? Like that's in real life.
Yeah, apparently it legitimately they had lost track of it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Whether it was like a Jericho situation where like it just got left on the the roof of a car somewhere, or like I don't know, like hotel cleaning employee.
You've heard that story, right?
I have. I just think it's really funny. How do you put a title on top of a car?
He went and ate at a restaurant, which means the title was with him in the restaurant, and then he put it on the roof of a car and then drove off.
Oh my god, that's the So we'll stick with that. That's what happened.
Yeah. So, MJF has got the ring on, and he says he's going to make Garcia kiss the ring, and then Adam Cole, baby, comes out. He doesn't just come out, he runs out.
And I lost my shit.
Yeah,
I literally stood up, walked across.
It was excitement and fear.
It really was, y'all, because if you guys have been listeners of either one of these shows, you know how much of a fan I am of Adam Cole and how devastated I was when his ankle not just broke, it exploded in 3 different places when he just simply jumped off a 5-foot ramp. So as he's running down the ramp, it's a mixture of like, oh my God, he's back. I'm so excited. I'm so happy.
Oh my God, he's back. Oh my God, he's running.
Stop running. Just walk, please. He's not going to go anywhere. Like, it was a whole bunch of different. I think we were all screaming at the TV.
That had to be amplified by the fact that you are the mother of a toddler.
It's like watching somebody run on.
True.
It's like watching somebody run on thin ice where you're scared that they and not the ice are going to break.
Oh my God! Honestly, like it all just came rushing back.
In my head, the funniest thing would have been he just runs to the ring and he's fine, and then he just blows up.
No, Chris, no.
Yeah, so MJF, in a very nice touch, when he looks up, he does have this one moment of looking very, like, there's pain in his face. Like, it's just something that he will try to deny and try to hide from, but that it hurts him to see Adam. And then he books it out of the ring, and Adam stands tall as a babyface again.
We're in a very weird position because the injuries and enough time has passed where MJF has reverted.
Which here's my theory with that. I feel like they've done a lot of reset storylines for this pay-per-view in particular. I feel like there's a couple, and we'll get to them later on, that like it kind of feels like the reset button has been pushed, and this is one of them. Yeah. Because I think this is what was supposed to happen after they tagged together. I think they were supposed to kind of implode as a tag team, and then this was supposed to be like, okay, like you betrayed me, I betrayed you, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But they got so over as a tag team, and they started selling T-shirts, and people started chanting for kangaroo kicks, and like it just kind of all spiraled out of control, right? And so they're like, okay, we're just gonna ride this, see what happens, and then
both men got seriously injured.
both of them, well, yeah, and
some more
injuries.
seriously than others.
Exactly, and so they're like, okay, well, the plan B isn't gonna work now, so now we'll do plan C, which was the devil, which in the, Undisputed Kingdom thing, and that kind of drifted off.
Yeah.
And then Adam just went away from TV. So I think this was what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And this is what we were supposed to get at the end of like last year, I think is when all of that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not confirmed obviously, but that's kind of my theory is that, okay, because we're back where we were at the beginning of all of that, right? You have MJF, who is the uber heel, and then you have babyface Adam Cole coming in being like, okay, I hate you, I'm gonna beat your ass.
And they
right?
may still give him a little time before he's actually wrestling, because while he seems to be moving okay,
he's cleared.
Yeah. Oh, he is fully cleared.
He's
they've
medically
said?
cleared. Yeah.
Okay, well, good luck to him.
I mean,
Well,
medically,
we've heard that before.
medically cleared with the guy who now has had multiple surgeries and multiple concussion recoveries. I mean, as much medically cleared as you can be, I think. But
What's great? They're just going to be very gentle with each other in the ring.
oh yeah, sure. And then just my nerves, like they're just gonna, he's just gonna target the ankle.
Yeah, I was
every
going to say the
single
first time that MJF starts wailing on that thing with a chair.
It's the same every time Finn Balor gets hit in his
MJF
left shoulder. I'm just gonna, wince every time it happens, but it's fine.
MJF is going to just wrist lock Adam Cole's arm. It's just going to pop off.
Oh my god.
You'll hear it like an audible pop, and they're just going to stare at it. And just
Arms just hanging on by a thread.
No, it just comes clean off. It's
Oh, okay.
just, no blood or anything. It's like an action figure.
Like an action figure, yeah.
And then he beats him with it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so Perry versus Shibata, I gave 3. That was just fun, solid match. But yeah, definitely it's more impactful for what comes after, which sets up MJF and Adam Cole again, and sets up Daniel Garcia coming after Jack Perry for the TNT title.
No, I think the match did its job,
Yeah.
right? Like it set up a lot of stuff going forward. And so I think you can still have a good match.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of it, like splintering off all these different kind of storylines.
Yeah, I will say I'm very excited for the prospect of Garcia getting the TNT title, because
Yes.
with what happens with the international title, that means you're going to have both of AEW's mid-card belts being held by just serious workhorses, one face and one heel. So again, we're a little ways down from that, but when that happens, that's going to be a very, very good place for the company. Speaking of the international title, next up we have a triple threat match with Will Ospreay defending the international championship against Ricochet and Konosuke Takeshita.
I'm just going to say right off the bat, when we were watching this match, there was so much yelling going on in my living room. Like so much, not bad yelling, but just like, oh my God, God. And he did this. And oh my gosh, like there was so much like that type of yelling that it just, I love those type of matches. Like there's a triple threat that can be like that. And then there's triple threats that like one guy just sits out, and waits for the other two to beat each other up, and then he'll come back in.
I tend to say this about every show, but if you're going to watch one match, watch this match.
Oh my gosh.
This is the match.
Yeah.
This was my match of the night.
This is the Ricochet WWE was keeping from you.
And doesn't that just make you so mad?
Sad, yeah.
Yeah, like it just you see it, and it's very similar with Shelton Benjamin too. I feel like you just
Apparently this past Dynamite was
dude,
that kind of
he
feud.
had match of the night on that Dynamite.
Him and Leo Rush.
It was amazing. So it's like you see that, and you're just like, okay, so you guys really didn't have anything for them.
Yeah.
Like you
That's
truly didn't. Like
That's
that.
it. Yep.
That's just crazy to me. But I mean, Ospreay and Ricochet, they've had 5-star matches for years, so it doesn't surprise me. And then adding Takeshita in there, like,
and just to have Takeshita be, I mean, not a guy who he can get off the ground when he needs to, but he's the most like grounded, strike focused guy.
the big guy.
Yeah, and so just to have him,
which was a great moment in the match where they try to forearm him.
yeah, they both, and he just delivers one and just knocks them both to the ground with a
He
single
doesn't
blow.
no sell it, but they bounce off of him.
It's true. It's very Teflon-esque. Like you just kind of like They
He
both
uses
try.
that momentum to come back around and hit them with a forearm, and they just go flying.
I do love that kind of giant type of move,
Yes.
right? It's not like a Brock Lesnar, like I'm just gonna hit you and you're just gonna fall flat, right? Like it's more of like there's a buildup, and then you could tell he's kind of got some damage to him, but then he just regenerates even more and then just hits them, and then they fall. So it's more of a challenge, I feel like, that way, but it still looks really effective.
Yeah, fun story with this one, because it wasn't that Ospreay and Ricochet teamed up against Takeshita, but there were clearly a lot of points in the match where they were both kind of like, okay, screw that guy, and they would kind of double team him for a second and then go back to fighting each other.
Well, that did lead to the finish of the match where they look at each other, briefly tag or shake hands,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, we'll finish after we're done with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is another one of those matches where I could just like list spots forever. There's a bit where Ricochet does Takeshita's outside the ring. Ricochet does like a flip over the top rope to him. Takeshita just catches him on one shoulder.
Yeah.
And Ospreay comes over a second later, and for a minute I thought Takeshita was going to catch him too. Would not have surprised me at this point, but no, that does take him down. But,
I mean, Tombstone through the table on the outside. That was the one that stuck with me.
Yeah, that takes Ricochet out of the match. He takes a packaged Tombstone off the ring apron through two tables, and then he's done in the match.
They set that table up at the very beginning, so it was very much Chekhov's table.
It was so funny because they set it up, and then it's like it got forgotten to the point where Takeshita gets taken down on the side of the ring where the table is. He looks over and realizes it's still there.
Oh yeah, the table that I set
There's
up.
a whole camera shot of him going, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute. But yeah, with Ricochet out of the match, Ospreay hits Takeshita with a hidden blade, but before he can get the pin, Don Callis yanks the ref out of the ring. At this point, Takeshita gets so mad he kind of forgets about, Ospreay gets so mad he forgets about Takeshita, sets Callis up for a Tiger Driver 91, but wait, there's a sinister figure that appears in a hoodie, a very tall, very lanky, sinister figure it's Kyle Fletcher.
I've seen a lot of people who say that they were shocked by this. I was not shocked in the slightest. I was like, first off, dude's humongous, right? Like, yeah, you put him in a hoodie and do the whole tight-faced drawstring thing, and you think we're not going to know who he is. And two,
it's Hook.
I could see this from like a mile away coming.
Right, this is what they've been building.
People were genuinely shocked by this. Maybe they weren't shocked as more as just
that's
like
because they don't have object permanence.
That's very true.
The hoodie reveal, it's a classic thing in wrestling. I think it's happened with at least 3 Bloodline members debuting, but
very true.
Yeah, I think it seems like they could have just had him come out and then have it be unclear if he was going to help Ospreay or attack him for a minute and then have him do the turn.
But they made it seem like it was going to be like, oh gosh, who could it be? I'm like, who's the only person not out here?
I mean, if it was Lance Archer, I would have popped for that.
Well,
but.
Sure, but I'm not saying it shouldn't have happened. It definitely should have happened, but I just thought it was really funny that people were like, "Oh my God, this is such a shock." I'm like, no.
Yeah, given how much groundwork they laid for it, it felt weird that they made the identity the thing and not, okay, what choice is Kyle gonna make?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe it's because they had already done that with Wheeler, so maybe they were like, oh, like maybe it'll be a surprise to some people, and clearly it was, because there were some people that were shocked. But
anyway, Kyle Fletcher Tiger Drivered Will Ospreay.
Yeah, Takeshita pins Ospreay, and then Fletcher drops him with a Tiger Driver.
Yeah, remember the move that Will was like, I can't do this anymore because it almost crippled a man.
Again,
no, I'm just gonna pull it out and do it on my best friend.
Again, I love that part of Will Ospreay's AEW journey is realizing that dangerous moves hurt other people.
Which is so funny because he's been doing that move for over a decade to literally every indie wrestler on the planet. But now it's dangerous.
He's finally growing up.
He does have a kid now.
But yeah, so Takeshita is your new international champion, which, like I said earlier, really excited to see him holding this one. He's already set to defend it at, I think, an indie show in Canada.
Yes.
So we're going back to the tradition of the international championship being one that's literally defended around the world.
This one was a toss-up for me. I really wasn't sure how they were going to go. I had Ospreay winning it, but I know you at the last second changed your mind on that one.
The word has been that they're finally ready to give Takeshita the Rocket, which has been due for a while. But the question was, does it happen here, or do they put him in the Continental Classic and let him tear it up there?
That's what I was thinking. That's why I said Will.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I mean this makes sense. I'm for it, and like you said, I'm happy that they're going to different promotions and defending it and kind of getting more exposure that way and giving other people exposure too.
I bet the celebration victory party at Cinnabon was wild.
Well, they did have some sort of family press conference on Dynamite, which they just berated how bad the media was at the media scrum, apparently.
I heard that, yeah, that they just like apparently had one question for Mariah May and then nothing else.
They had
and,
nothing prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to the end and everything, but I think it was because of that.
Yeah.
No one knew what to ask anybody.
They weren't sure what night it was anymore. There was so much wrestling.
All right, so I gave this one 4 3/4. Just tremendously fun match, great energy. All three of these guys just looking like $1 million, and yeah, excited to see where Takeshita goes. We're obviously going to have Ospreay and Fletcher feuding for the next little while.
That was Fletcher?
Oh my God.
I ran it back slowly, got a high quality video analyzer, and yeah. I would say he had the
Who
hoodie
could
on.
have seen this coming at all?
I'd say that he had the hood
That's
up because
dumb even for wrestling fans.
I'd say he had the hood up because he was ashamed of his haircut, but we all know that Kyle Fletcher cannot be ashamed of a haircut.
God, he has the worst hair in wrestling.
He's an objectively good-looking guy.
He is, but
It's
all of his
so
haircuts
weird.
look like his mom just put a bowl on top of his head and then just took chops at him.
I will say this about the people missing the build up for this. Like, I do not have access to watch the shows, which is why I'm happy about next year when it gets on Max.
Yeah.
But I saw enough via Twitter that I was like, I saw the setup between. I was like, oh, Fletcher, Fletcher's coming to Ospreay. I was like, so when the guy showed up, I was like, oh, that's Fletcher. He's here to betray him because he's there calling their friendship, and he was calling on their friendship. I was
Right.
like, oh yeah, no, there's a betrayal coming.
So you're saying even though you don't have access to cable, you still
I got
saw
enough
that
to
turn
yeah.
coming.
Because also I've watched enough TV and narratives in my lifetime to figure out how a story works.
Of course. Right.
All right, so next up we get another segment. Between matches, we have the return of Swerve Strickland for the first time since his cage match with Hangman. Prince Nana comes out, plugs his coffee line, which I have to admit,
Multiple times.
it looks pretty good, honestly. Normally I'm mad about
You
product
immediately
placement,
got on
but
the phone.
You did. Did you
have,
see
like-
how much it costs per bag,
it's,
Robert?
It's pricey, but a Guatemalan blend aged in bourbon barrels before roasting, and I'm just like, you know what? I want to give that a try.
I know, but $40 a bag, right?
David's head came up briefly and then just went back down.
He meerkatted up when we said aged in bourbon barrels.
But yeah, so Swerve comes out, crowd pops because he's a Washington guy. He announces that he's medically cleared, and then we get MVP and Shelton Benjamin coming out because
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they want to get Swerve into this new Hurt Syndicate they've started up. Have they called it that on TV?
They have not.
Okay, everybody's
No.
referring to it that way.
So that-
but-
That's the legally distinct name they've decided to
The
give
reason why everybody keeps referring to it is because MVP has filed trademarks for that
Okay.
name.
That's right, yeah.
So it's public knowledge that he owns that name. So everyone's just kind of assuming that that's what they're going to be called, which
Okay.
makes sense. But he keeps talking about, I need to discuss some business with you. And I just love the pause before the word business, which I love the little reference there. But yeah, I'm not saying this shouldn't have happened. I understand why it did. Segments in the middle of pay-per-views, it's very much a WWE thing to me. And
in general, they shouldn't happen, but it was. I mean, like Robert noted, he's a native. He's from there, so they wanted to pop the crowd with him there being there.
yeah, no, and I get
no,
that, and
yeah.
I know that people needed a time to like go pee
Yeah.
after the Ospreay, triple threat. I understand people need a break from stuff, and I understand that's why there's segments, but for him to just kind of have a back and forth, it did kind of feel like
Yeah.
just a TV segment a little
Oh
bit.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was
and it very much was, but
Yeah.
not a bad one at that.
No,
Like you
sure.
have
not bad, but not
right.
necessary.
Swerve
Exactly.
name drops Defy Wrestling, where he and MVP had a match way back when. He really talks up Shelton Benjamin, which is just awesome as like
Yeah,
a guy who has
sure.
been, background for so much of his time in WWE. but
I love how he all but said to his face, "Man, when I was a kid, I loved watching you."
Yeah, pretty much. In less words.
just shy of dancing around. It's like, you're old.
I watched you when I was a kid.
So I think we were all kind of thinking Lashley had to run out because that
that's-
must be why
we
it's
were
a pay-per-view
expecting it,
thing.
That's
yeah.
what you were thinking. It's just like, I think that was also the point to tease it because
Yeah.
everyone knew at this point that Lashley was signed.
Well, yeah, it was knowledge that Shelton had been signed.
Yeah.
Along with, they all came in together, all three of them. But I had heard that the reason why he didn't come out, why
Yeah.
Lashley didn't come out, was because there was so much other shit that happened on
Yeah.
this show.
Well, yeah.
That they didn't
You
want
wanna
him
make
to
it,
get
you want to make it
lost.
special, yeah.
Exactly. They didn't
And-
want him to get lost in the shuffle.
But I did spend the whole segment going, where's he coming from?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, okay, is he going to come from behind? Is he going to hit him? Is he just going to walk out onto the ramp, like all nonchalant? Like, I was definitely playing it out in my
Yeah.
head. So I do wonder, I understand he needed to be on the show because he's a hometown guy, but could they have not done this segment if Lashley wasn't going to debut?
I think, they probably could have saved it. It was just a matter of, like you said, give everybody a little bit of a break and also...
But it was also there to reinforce Swerve's new identity. He's solidly face because...
he has a chance to turn on
that's fair.
Nana, and he
doesn't.
though he lost his
He-
title and his house got burned down
And
and,
he
all
gives
that
a
other
lot.
stuff.
There's a lot of reasons.
Gives a lot. Well, here's the thing: the house thing is like he helped him buy his childhood house. He didn't.
You
do
did
it.
make that point the night of.
I
You
was
were like,
how's that on him?
you're like, that's not his fault.
didn't-
The Hangman, he didn't give Hangman the lighter
or the directions. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, no,
he didn't text him.
I definitely get why it happened. It definitely
He still
furthers
sells
the
weed to high
story.
school kids.
Apparently, that was a funny joke.
Yeah, but I love at the end of it. I was like, but you family.
Your
Yeah.
family, you
Your
don't abandon family.
So yeah, I agree. That probably could have been a TV segment, and as much as it pains me to say it, probably so could the next match, which I really like. But
I will say the last thing about the segment was the surprise on Nana's face when Swerve is like, "I'm not going to betray you." Was
He's like, really?
Are you sure?
Oh,
If I
yeah.
heard-
Oh, that's what I thought. Like,
I was like, there was that look of like, I don't know. If I heard what you said, I'd betray me.
you made a really good case.
but then he immediately turned back to hype man, like
He's
dancing
like,
in
"Oh,
the
yeah."
background, like I knew it.
I'm here forever. All right, so next up we have the Beast Mortos versus Hologram in a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Okay, maybe this didn't need to be on the pay-per-view, but I'm glad it was because I loved it.
Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. Like I'm glad that we got to see it, and I'm glad that people paid to see it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Because I feel like sometimes they do a lot of big, huge matches on free TV, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like I'm cheating you guys. I'm stealing from you, right? That I get to watch this match. Like the first Ricochet Ospreay match was on free TV, and that felt weird. But I do feel like I am glad that both of these guys got pay-per-view exposure.
Yeah, they've both been doing really well on TV matches, and I think it was just a chance to be like, all right, here's the big stage. Y'all have that for 16 minutes. Go. And they really delivered. This was I think the other strategy on this was they knew that after the triple threat, the crowd would be a little burned out, so they give them the segment with Swerve to catch their breath a little bit, and then this is a very high intensity, fast moving, exciting match to get them pumped back up again. Only kind of worked. The crowd
Yeah.
was pretty dead for the first half of this one. Not the fault of the performers.
And I blame the crowd entirely. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
You've got a bull man and a solid light projection
Not only
fighting.
a bull
If you-
man, but a bull man doing flips and shit.
He does
Hell
like a
yeah.
diving corkscrew through the ropes while he's
That
got
was
horns.
amazing.
Yeah, how does he do that?
And the mask didn't move, guys.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's the part that baffles me, because it's like wrestling in a lucha mask. Like I feel like is difficult in and of itself, right? Because
Yeah.
you have limiting blind spot, interaction and stuff. But like this is a full on like stuff hanging off of it
Yeah.
type of. Like it's a headpiece. It's not a mask. Like it is a full headpiece with hair
Like
and
there's
like
pieces spreading out from his face, so it's like his vision has got to be severely restricted.
yeah, and it's just insane in his size too.
Yeah.
Like that plays into it too. Like there's big guys that can do lucha style well. Just
Yeah.
really impress me. Because I mean, I think I can't remember who said it, but it was someone we were watching said when you are a part of lucha wrestling, like it doesn't matter like how big or how small you are, like that's the expectation.
Yeah, if you
right?
can't do a drop kick,
Yeah.
that you're not gonna make it in lucha. Like,
right, exactly. So it's like he's like, okay, like I'll be this size and also be perfect at it while I'm wearing a headpiece. Like
Yeah.
that's insane.
What we're trying to say is Beast Mordos is cool as
He's
hell.
so
Yeah.
cool.
And he's a lawyer.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he
What is
shared
with
a-
these like animal like lucha people being like doctors and have like master's degrees and shit?
I don't know if he's actually certified or how that would work in Mexico, but like he shared pictures of like his final exam grades and it was like in constitutional rights and things like, and his scores looked pretty good. So
That is insane.
He's probably just not practicing, but he's probably licensed as well.
No. I want him to be, and then I want him to show up defending people in the mask.
watch your back, Mark Sterling.
That's what I
Oh
want.
my God.
Like I want more than anything.
Yeah, so it's a fun match, and I love that it's a 2 out of 3 falls because the thing about Mortos is he's gotten over despite not actually winning a lot of his matches. He's just
Right.
he's just put up such a good fight. He does get a pin. He's the first guy to pin Hologram in AEW, even if he ultimately loses the match.
Right.
I want to interject here real quick to say that as soon as this episode is done, Robert, you and I are sitting down and writing an entire first season of The Lucha Lawyer.
Yep. That's
That-
happening.
Oh, yeah.
Better call Mortos.
Y'all better trademark that immediately. That is going to get
Absolutely.
snatched
That would
up.
work. That would work extremely well. You just transliterate wrestling, specifically lucha, into a courtroom, and it's gold. That's an
my
Adult Swim
God.
show that runs for at least 3 seasons.
100%.
It also works because luchadors have the best tailors. Like when they're out of the
Oh,
ring, they've got
sure.
like 3-piece suits on and like really smooth turtlenecks. Like they just look. You watch look at El Santo in some
No,
of
they
his
do.
movies,
They
and
do,
he's just
yeah.
walking around with a silver mask and his like awesome 70s leisure wear. Ah man.
I'm just imagining turtlenecks as like the ultimate status symbol for a heel, like Christian Cage does. Like even he wrestles
Well,
in
it was
those
that-
short sleeve.
The turtleneck needs a
At
face
one
turn.
point, they
Exactly.
were so liked. They were so liked as a fashion statement that they were just like the height of culture. Like if you wanted to look cultured, you
Sure.
wear that turtleneck.
And like all things that were at one point the height of culture,
seriously.
No, I know.
they
yeah.
came to be seen as like a snobby thing. So
Yes.
that's how Christian's using it.
Of course.
So yeah, I gave this match, again, hard to talk about the match itself because it really is just a lot of really fun, high intensity lucha spots.
Yeah.
Hologram wins 2 pinfalls to 1. I gave it 3 1/4.
There is a spot in this match where Hologram comes off the top turnbuckle to Mordos on the outside, and that was the spot we noted where it's just like it was just a matter. I don't know. I think it seems lucha specific where it's just like you just go. You expect the other person to be there
Yes. No, that and that's the thing I've said always about
because he no look jumped.
Yes, Io Shirai or Io Sky
Yes,
in WWE,
yes.
she does that. She never looks
Yeah.
right when she does her moonsaults. She just expects that someone is going to catch her, and if not, she's going to figure out how to land it.
just like, "I'm
right?
jumping."
Like any spot. And I feel like lucha's kind of the same way. It's
Catch
like,
me, wee.
yeah, and like even if you're not prepared, like you're going to figure out a way to catch him,
Yeah,
right?
while you're rotating through the air, if you see that they're not beneath you, you rotate a little faster to get your feet
It's like
under you.
it's like a
That's
parent
insane.
roughhousing with a kid. The kid will just jump off something because they're like, "Dad'll catch me."
Right. Yeah, it's that type of
He'll catch you with his pelvis.
thing.
Apparently, he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
It's that type of faith, right? And but yeah, I agree. Like there's too much in this to go spot for spot, but it was definitely
Yeah.
a good one.
I hate that this did not fully wake the crowd up because it does feel like for most of the rest of the card until the main event, you had the crowd kind of
Listen,
needing
if
to
you
be
go to a
revived.
live wrestling event, your role is to be there. It is to be the hype man for the entire show.
Mm-hmm.
You need to wake up.
I mean, just speaking, we've all been to AEW shows at
Yes, we
this
have.
point, and it's a marathon.
Yes.
It is. So I do feel for
So
certain
you got to
crowds.
pace yourself. It's not a sprint.
No, it's true. You gotta pace yourself for the long haul, but it was like this part of the match where
Yeah.
you're kind of like, okay, we've seen a bunch, but we also still have a lot more to see.
Yeah.
So it's like the energy I think was kind
And
of in the lull.
to actually be fair, they woke up towards the end because they knew it was a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Yeah.
So I think no matter how exciting the first 2/3 of the match was, I think they were just waiting for when it would really get wild at the
Sure.
end.
Yeah, when it's at that 1-1 spot, that's when they really start digging in.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Which is a bad mentality. Wake up.
According to Chris, you need to be awake 100% of the time.
I'm at home. They can't hear me. They can hear you in that stadium.
That's true.
Next up is Darby Allin versus Brody King in what is reportedly kind of a consolation match for Darby, because way back when, apparently he was going to be the one going up against Danielson here, and it's not clear when they changed that. Reportedly, at least
That was probably around the time Mox started breaking out the plastic bags.
Yeah, by then they definitely decided, but I think All In was probably the point where they had everything cleared up. By the time I think Danielson won the belt, they knew how he was going to lose it, but
they had started like a build for it to be Darby in Seattle, or Tacoma. Like, I feel like that's where they had started this whole feud, and then a drastic turn happened, and then now we're where we're at. Which, I mean, arguably, like, whoever you talk to, it might be better or worse, but like, I don't know. It's just such a strange kind of turn for Darby to go against Brody, which I liked it. Yeah. It was good, but it doesn't make much sense to me.
They've got a history, so
well, sure, but I feel like everybody does at this point, right? Like they've been a company for 5 years, and both of those guys have been in there almost the entire time.
Yeah, it really was just they wanted to have Darby on the card, and they needed. You would think they could have built this up a little sooner, but I guess they decided they wanted to give time to Mox beating him to get his number one contender spot.
Right.
Which left him with limited time to actually have a challenger. I feel like you could have had him against like one of the BCC or something, like somebody who'd interfered in the match.
Sure.
Like.
Yeah, Brody just felt very random.
Yeah,
and I know they've been in matches before, so like you said, you can draw off of that. But I mean, there were definitely some spots in here, like the Brody puts the ring stairs on top of Darby and then just walks up the stairs. Right? Like Darby should not have a torso anymore, right? Like I don't understand how that man just goes and goes and goes and is still able to stand. Like doing spots, not just the high flying stuff and just running headfirst into the barricade all the time, but like
he got hit by a bus earlier this year.
It took him 2 weeks to recover from that, Robert. He got hit by a bus, and 2 weeks later, he was back on Dynamite.
Doing anarchy in the arena.
He's not a human.
He knew Brody was the person who would take him to the pain dimension that he loves to reside in.
Jesus, just the spot of seeing him like walk up the stairs with another human underneath the stairs.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's
then, that was returned later when he tossed Brody onto the stood up end of the ring steps. He got
pancakes on that metal,
and then he coffin dropped him.
Yeah, which I again, wrestlers are just incredible humans, right?
Yeah.
Because doing one of those spots, I would be like, I'm done. I've been turned into a cow. I'm going to go home now, right? Like it's
incredible, not necessarily in the praiseworthy sense, but in the literal definition of I cannot believe you're doing this.
In the praiseworthy sense for me, like the dumber shit you do and the more you put your body at risk, like the more I'm going to cheer for you. But it's...
Oh, no, I mean, that's true. It's like, yes, give me this.
Right, that's what you pay for. That's what you pay to see.
You could describe the first half of this match basically as Brody is King Kong and Darby is all the airplanes and just getting swatted out.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
I know exactly how to describe it. There's a pretty famous commercial, I think from the 70s. It's 70s or 80s, where I think Samsonite luggage, in order to show off how tough their luggage was, they put one in a gorilla exhibit at a zoo, and you see this gorilla grab it and start banging it around and tossing against the walls. And that's what I was thinking of.
Darby was in the suitcase?
Darby was the
suitcase. Okay.
But you have Darby doing all these like charging spots, like diving tackles, and Brody just swats him out of the air.
That's such an apt comparison. True. Yeah, he's a scary dude just in general. But again, another person that I feel like is very underestimated on this roster, which I think they have a lot of those. But yeah, it didn't make much sense to me why it was happening, but I'm glad I watched it. Yeah. Also, I think that's kind of my consensus.
I get the real sense that Brody has a Bam Bam Bigelow type of vibe of where he's really good and will take care of you in the ring.
Oh, but there's also, a very sensitive side because he's, dad to Julia Hart.
Oh, yeah, no, I see him on Twitter. He's
just
like a cool guy.
Julia's tattoo dad.
Going, shopping for tattoos and,
Yeah, so the match, after that coffin drop to Brody on the outside ring step, Brody barely gets back in the ring to beat the 10 count, at which point Darby immediately hits him with a second coffin drop and gets the pin. So.
Correct.
I just kind of love that's all that Darby really does.
So his whole
It's just
strategy
kind of
is
throw his body at you, and that's his. His finisher is just him throwing his body at
If
you
you've
backwards.
ever played any of the Kirby games, there's that power up where if you eat one of the characters and take their power, Kirby just turns into a rock and will slam down into whatever. That's what Darby does with his body.
his whole strategy
Darby is Kirby.
Darby's kind of
Yeah.
Kirby.
Okay.
This will hurt me more than it hurts you, but I can take more pain than you can.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
he's pink and malleable and takes a lot of punishment.
There you go.
All right, so yeah, I gave that 3.5. Like I said,
You didn't think I could do it, could you?
No, you got there though. I'm so happy. I'm so proud.
I'm just really lucky Darby started wearing that pink coat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very fond of that. It looks comfortable.
Oh my God, he's wearing a pink coat. It all makes sense. I'm putting all the strings together. It's all making sense.
So I give it 3.5. Like I said, weak. I'm a little shaky on the story, but these two guys do have good chemistry in the ring together,
And they
it's-
shook hands afterward.
Yes.
It was
They-
a surprise move.
They did. Yeah.
Well, Brody initiated. I should also point that out.
Yes. Which we were all kind of waiting for him to turn on him, like just.
Oh,
pick
I
him
was
up
so
and, like,
I was so
one-dart
waiting
him.
for the handshake to Darby goes to pull away and he just yanks him back and then there's
Or at least just Buddy Matthews coming out and being like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, I'll hit him for you if you don't want to hit him anymore. Jeez.
it's okay, you're tired. I'll take care of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
All right, next up we have the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, defending the Tag Team Championship against Private Party. I still have them down as Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, but apparently they are just Zay and Quinn now. That's how they're.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know when that happened. Yeah, so for a match where did any of us think for a second the Bucks were not gonna retain their titles in this one?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that hope, but but realistically, I know it's like it's gonna go the way I think it is.
I take issue with this match, and I am a Bucks defender. I do enjoy their matches. I know they
I
can
always
get
knew
kind
there
of
was something wrong with you.
I know. That's why you have me on, right? For differing opinions.
No, in fact, this needs to stop.
I know they can get kind of spot heavy, but like I do think they are good heels. Like I
They
think
are.
they genuinely, now some can argue that it's because it's who they are in real life, but they genuinely do get how to be a heel, right?
No.
I can't see them as anything else.
You're right. You're
However,
absolutely right.
the build up to this, not only did it not make me believe that Private Party was not going to go over, I had no inclination that was going to happen. They really built them up before this match, like literally right before, as this like mega popular, mega over team just because they pinned them once like 5 years ago. Like
Yeah.
that was something that they really drove home. And they had this Rocky style montage with this guy. I'm sorry, I don't know
So-
who he was.
Amazing Red.
Okay, that
He
guy.
he had a big run in TNA.
Sure, I figured, right?
Yeah.
Because there were people that really popped hard for him, and I'm
And
like,
they-
okay,
and
cool.
he-
Another person that
and
I
he was
really
their
don't know.
trainer,
Yeah,
But
he runs a training school called House of Glory, so he's
okay, cool.
Yeah.
But like, so they had him talking, right, and hyping them up and being like, just kind of emphasizing that like you're they're saying you're a loser, you're not a
That
loser,
package
like
made me so sad because I knew.
you knew they weren't
you,
gonna.
you get this big. I mean, it's like it's like a big Rocky moment, right down to them losing.
Yeah, because it's like at the end
You got to
of
prove
this,
you're not a bum. Oh well.
Yeah, because like when you hype them up and you're like, okay, like, oh, these are the people I'm supposed to cheer for, obviously, and then they, in my opinion, kind of get worked over during this match.
They did. See, because what really sucks is that's the kind of package that you get when you see someone who's about to go over.
Yeah, and it's like, and the message that I got was, okay, you started out as a loser, and then now you're still a loser.
It's
so
a
let's
challenging-
move on, and I don't really care anymore.
The story was the Bucks got their win back from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, right?
Well, it's a tough combination of elements because you've got the idea of them as like, oh, they're so hyped up. When Moxley's been on this tear across AEW with the people who he doesn't think have really realized their potential, and one of the things he did was smash Isaiah Cassidy's hand with a hammer to teach him to become a better wrestler.
That Okay,
And-
see, that's my okay. I understand. I understand it's schizo logic, but at the same time, the idea of I need you to unlock your potential, so I'll do it by potentially ending your career.
Yeah, I'll break you down so that way you have to come up from the ashes and be a new person.
How'd that work out for Arlie Ermy and Full Metal Jacket?
But no, so the idea is that like, okay, they're fired up. They're gonna seize their spot. They've got this energy behind them now that they didn't have before, and you get that whole hype package. And then they come in, and you have the Bucks doing that thing that they sometimes do, where they're like, oh, screw this, we're not gonna have this match, and try to walk up the ramp. So
Yeah.
they come in with all this energy behind them. The Bucks are doing the kind of cowardly heel. You know what? We choose not to have a match tonight. And then once the match starts, it really feels like Zay and Quinn are the underdogs for most of it. Like that's them trying not to get taken down by the Bucks. It's the weird thing where, as heely as they are, the Bucks always have this kind of consistent, we're a devastating two-man team and we've got the fighting spirit to kick out of all these finishers. It's always weird that whether they're faces or heels, their in-ring style doesn't change as much as I feel like it should, which is always kind of weird for me.
I feel like what they should have done was, if you're going to have this hype package and you're going to try to build this team up as a team that could potentially win, you got to let them get the offense in. And then they get beaten down, and then they can lose, right?
And-
like, you got to have them come in on the high end first,
Yeah.
right? Because, like, obviously they've just had a huge hype package.
Usually
so
that's what you're supposed to do in a match like this when the person's supposed to put up a valiant effort but not win. They're usually supposed to get the lion's share of the offense.
And then when they do lose, then the heels get even more booed, right? Because
Right.
you had this hope that they were going to win.
And like Robert was saying, is like adapting to this whole EVP shtick they're doing. The win should be less decisive and more opportunistic and slimy.
Yeah, that it feels like
Yeah.
the big, oh my gosh, this might end differently way comes after Isaiah Cassidy gets an EVP trigger and kicks out.
Which doesn't happen.
Yeah, which is cool, but it's also like, oh, they haven't been defeated yet, not, oh, they're about to win. It's
And they intercepted
no,
the driver.
I think they're called the TK driver now, formerly the Meltzer driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well-
that's a really good point. Like, you would think that spot of him kicking out would get a huge pop and then everybody would rally around
Yeah.
them, but like it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of was like, oh, it's another kick out. Like, I don't think the audience really got into the story that they were trying to tell
Yeah.
him, but I just don't think they told it right.
Yeah.
Or told it well enough.
That
it
was supposed to be the big beat for everyone to go, oh my gosh. and
Exactly.
it didn't.
the
hook.
hope spot, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the energy you want for a match like this is sort of like what you had with the one I'll always remember is when the Acclaimed were going after Swerve in Our Glory.
Yeah.
And the crowd just got so far behind the Acclaimed. Like every near fall, every kick out, they were just so hyped to the point that, even though Swerve in Our Glory retained, all of us in the room were like, should they have just called that differently in the ring? Like,
Yeah.
You want that
Yeah.
energy where the crowd wants it to be that way so badly. And
They did correct pretty quickly, but still, it's
Yeah.
like in the moment, it's like it probably should have been. that.
Absolutely. And I think they were maybe hoping that was going to be the case, but they have not built Private Party up
No.
well enough at all for you to even think, even before you saw that hype package, like that they had any chance of winning at all. And that's not a fun one. We've watched enough Roman Reigns matches to know that that's disappointing when you go into a match and you know who's going to win and who's going to lose. That's not the point, right? Like, we can predict who's going to win and who's going to lose. Like, that's fun, but, not a foregone conclusion.
I mean, you can tell I'll think of like Samoa Joe versus Hook. You can tell a good match where you can tell, okay, this guy's never got a shot, but it's about how valiant a fight he puts up. But that wasn't what they set this story up to be.
No,
And
not
it's-
how violently they lose,
Yeah.
right? It's more of like, okay, how long is this one going to go?
Like, you kind of expect Amazing Red to come out at the end and be like, oh, well, I guess you guys do kind of suck.
Yeah.
Get out of my training school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of going to be the end of it. They tried to get another match and the Bucks were like,
Yeah.
we're not feeling that.
Let me ask, if both of y'all are booking it and you say you've got as much time to do this as you need, who do you have take the tag titles off the Young Bucks?
I think they need to build their tag division back up for me to know
Yeah.
what the options are. I mean, I think that if they build Top Flight up enough, and I think that they are going to be going forward in this new era, new regime that they have going on, I think they are going to be focusing on Top Flight. I think they could do it.
Yeah, I'd say Top Flight or the Outrunners, just looking at like the ones who just have the energy behind them. Although
I don't think the Outrunners do it against the Jacksons.
No,
Bucks.
I think if Top Flight wins it, then
I would
yeah.
genuinely think. I think so. You definitely Top Flight. It would be a big deal for them. I would also think what would make the fans most happy is the conglomeration.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going for fan reaction and
Yeah.
what they would want, I would say so, because they're definitely an over group. So if you
Yeah.
have Orange and Kyle maybe
Yeah.
team together, I just think there needs to be more build to it for it to make
certainly.
sense. And that's why I say Top Flight, just because I think they have now been kind of thrust into the whole BCC drama of it all. But yeah, that's what I would do.
And the Bucks are in kind of an aimless place because they were part of the like top heel faction taking over the company, and then that just got kind of slid away because they're just sort of like really big douchebags, and the BCC are going around literally maiming people and like committing
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
murder.
I saw that trending around Twitter where people making memes about it. It's like
Well, yeah, because they just sat there on the ramp and watched it all happen.
Yeah, they play that on Dynamite where the
I've also seen the BCC called the Blackpool Felon Club.
Yep, definitely.
yeah. So again, not a bad match, all things considered. I think all participants like did pretty well. There wasn't a lot that I
Yeah.
looked at and was like, oh, this is clumsy or awkward or whatever. But just the story felt off, and yeah, there wasn't really a lot of suspense or drama behind it, despite the best efforts, especially by Private Party. So I gave it a 3. All right. Next up, we are at our semi-main event with Mark Briscoe defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho.
This is shocking to me that this was the semi-main. This was the only thing on the card that I was like, okay, I don't, and maybe that's because I'm just completely over Jericho at this point, that I don't get why they got that high on the card. Like, as we were watching
I respect it
I
for
was,
Mark Briscoe. I don't for Jericho.
okay, yes, fair.
Because it's a world title, I think is sort of their thinking.
I get it. I just don't know why Jericho's in it right now. Like, I know it sounds mean, but at the same time, I don't think that this feud, because they bring in his brother, and I don't think that was earned.
Really was not.
I think it's too soon. I don't think you need to do that yet, but that's just my opinion. And 2, I don't think the feud itself did not lend to that. Like, it didn't need it. Like, he just randomly brought out his brother, and is just like using him in promos and being like, well, he would have done this, or like, and I don't know. It's kind of in poor taste to me.
Well, it's the kind of thing that if they're going to do it, and it's possible they would never have to, but wrestling being wrestling, eventually somebody was gonna. It should be the kind of thing where it's like there is so much heat in the feud, and it's Briscoe and somebody, they just hate each other so much, and then the guy's just like, the worst thing I could say right now, and then he pulls that out.
Sure.
And this just felt like they wanted to give this feud a kick from being kind of and they're like, Jericho can start talking about Jay. Yeah, let's go with that. And it just, it felt like they were trying to ignite something when it really should have been like gasoline on a burning fire.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like you have to earn that type of heat, right? And I don't feel like this feud got to that point.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I just don't feel like Jericho really does a lot for people in the feuds that he's in, right? And I liked this match more than I have a lot of Jericho matches.
Bell
in
to
the
bell, it
past.
was really good. It was one of
Sure.
the better ones he's had in a while.
Yeah, I agree, but I guess I'm still not. I'm ready for a break. From
Don't
Jericho.
you worry. They got your emails. This is continuing.
I know. I heard. Yeah, they didn't listen. They got my emails, but they're not listening. Yeah, this feud's still going to continue, and I don't know why, but it is.
Yeah. Again, solid all the way through. They have, the other members of the Learning Tree come down, Big Bill's at ringside trying to interfere, and then Orange Cassidy comes in to run him off.
I do love the other people in his faction. Like, I love Big Bill. What's the Bad Apple guy's name?
Brian Keith.
That one. I like him a lot. How he just has the fabulous hat and then just yells at you that you need to respect Chris Jericho. Like, that's a good gimmick, right?
Yeah.
Chris Jericho, every iteration of a group he forms in AEW seems to have a guy that seems to be yelling, "You need to respect Chris Jericho."
I wonder if there's some like underlying shit with that.
Say the thing. Yeah, so it ends with Jericho tries to hit Mark Briscoe with a J Driller, which was Jay Briscoe's finisher. Mark kicks out at 2, hits him with some chops, and then hits the J Driller properly to retain it. So, yeah, I give it 2 3/4. Like, again, not a bad match. I just, they went to a place that didn't feel earned. The general kind of fuzziness of Jericho's whole thing right now. Yeah, this not one of the weaker matches on the card. Not because of what happened in the ring, but just because it didn't feel built and it didn't have the entertainment to offset all that. All right, so take a moment, cracking knuckles.
Yeah, sorry for the pause. I was literally just looking through my notes for this next match,
Yes.
because I just want to have all my thoughts straight.
We are coming to the main event of the evening, which is Bryan Danielson defending the World Championship of AEW against Jon Moxley, with the stipulation that if Danielson loses, he will retire from full-time wrestling. Oh, man. This one. This was something. So
I heard it was epic.
So-
You're right. It was very epic, and I will just start off by saying, in the moment, it evoked a huge reaction.
Yeah.
I
out of
genuinely
me.
think you would have liked it, Dave.
No,
Yeah.
you would have absolutely loved it. Like,
Especially the aftermath.
So I was going to say, let's divide into, first off, just start to finish the match itself.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
have
that's
sort of
fair.
a separate thing to talk about everything that happens afterwards, because that's its own thing.
yeah, sure.
But yeah, this is something they've been building to for a while, really ever since the Blackpool Combat Club started, and Mox specifically has been building on this one for months, of just the breaking of the faction and him retiring Danielson because he's got bigger plans for AEW. And man, these two brought all that energy. Like, it is an intense match.
It's one of those that, like, I love that you just said that it's been building and building for months, because that's not something that I even clocked, right? Like, when you think back, like, yes, they've been kind of divided, but it's not been in the forefront of everybody's mind. So I think maybe that was why it was such a shocking match, and just a thrilling match in general, because you're just like, oh my God, like, this feels like it's coming out of nowhere. But you're right, it has been building, because, Mox really hasn't been doing a lot with them lately. And at first you're just like, oh, it's just a faction that is kind of going off and doing its own thing, and they'll come back together in the end, and they do, come back for Anarchy in the Arena, and, all that stuff when it matters. But, like, you're right, like, there's been division and there's been dissension happening kind of behind the scenes, like, this entire time, and you just don't realize it.
Yeah. And, I mean, from the start, like, because Moxley does his, through the crowd entrance with Marina Shafir, and then Danielson comes out to the final countdown. He's got, like, a long coat with dragon scales on it.
Oh, my God.
He gets up on the
fit.
on the turnbuckle to do the pose for the crowd, and Mox immediately knocks him off of it.
And just denies everybody of saying it's the final countdown.
Everybody in that arena was inhaling in preparation to do that with him, and no, says Moxley.
I do love that they continued to play the song, because they don't start the match for a while.
Yeah.
Like, they just beat on each other, but they're beating on each other as you hear final countdown in the background. And in my mind, it just makes me think, like, Tony Khan's like, no, if I can paid for this song, I'm gonna play all of it. Right? Like, because it is expensive every time they play it. But yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Anarchy in the Arena a bit, right? Because they play music for a good portion of that match, and it kind of hyped up that, like, okay, I don't care, I'm just gonna still beat the shit out of you, even though your entrance music hasn't ended yet. Like, I'm still, that's how blood feud this has gotten.
And because the match hasn't legally started, Marina can, like, jump on Danielson's back like a spider monkey. I think Mox tries to choke him out with audio cables at one point.
They both try to choke each
that's
other
right. Danielson
out.
grabs them too.
He does it first.
Oh, jeez.
It's rubbed off on him.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, this guy tried to kill me already. I might as well just come out swinging.
And Mox is just like, where did this come from? Yeah, so eventually they do get in the ring, music stops and the bell rings, and they're just smacking each other around. Like, there's moves, there's technical stuff. Danielson gets in his submissions and all that, but it's been a while since I watched a wrestling match and just felt like the story is these guys are trying to end it brutally. It's not even like, it's different from what you see in like Swerve and Hangman's match at the cage, where it feels like, okay, inflicting pain on this person is the point. This one, it felt like, okay, I'm going to end this and it's going to be nasty. I think Danielson does like a Psycho knee pretty quickly after the bell rings. Like, he goes for a quick finisher, and I think Mox hits him with a Death Rider too. Like, they both do finishers early on that don't get the job done. At one point, I think Nigel, I need to go back and listen to it because there's noise in the room while we're watching these things, so a lot of commentary gets missed.
Just a little bit of noise.
But Nigel apparently, despite being on record as the greatest hater of Bryan Danielson, starts to get a little like shocked at how hard Moxley is going, that he's not sure who to root for anymore.
Well, because it's not just, targeting the neck, because obviously everybody's going to do that to him, right? It's common knowledge that he has neck issues and almost ended his career, right, the first time. But it's the consistent going at it. Like, if usually you hit a neck spot and then you move on and you do something else. Like, it was spot after spot after spot that was just like direct hit to the neck, right? And then Marina coming in and doing stuff and behind the ref's back, and just
It's almost like Mox wasn't just trying to win.
yeah. I mean, it also shows when Marina rips up half of the padding, over the concrete, which I just still find it amazing that the ref still doesn't see it at
How'd
first.
that happen?
But how did that get undone? That's crazy.
You there, person standing next to it. Did you see who did that?
Did you see who did that? Like,
Of course, you have the classic, set up their own spot, because Mox tries to give Danielson a pile driver on the concrete and gets backdropped over it. Only a little bit later to successfully deliver a Death Rider on there, which I know he can protect. Like, you can protect the other guy's head when you go down for doing that, but Danielson, as he rolls over, it looks like he takes a lot of that on his elbow, and that just
well, and
looks
you
so
as the
painful.
person that's delivering it, like, there's nothing protecting your back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he takes just a full back shot onto the concrete. Like, it's
Phrasing.
Yeah, I deserved that one. But my meaning behind it is just, Mox, all of Mox's moves, I feel like he sets himself up to really get just as, or maybe even more hurt than the person he's inflicting on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, the
His
Death
body isn't-
Rider is one of those that
He
comes to
doesn't
mind.
care so long as it hurts the other person as much, if not more.
Yeah, and I think that's what has always made him such a compelling wrestling character, persona, whatever you want to call it. Like, he's one that kind of blurs the line of like what's real and what's not for me. Like, same with MJF. Like, you don't know if what he's saying is the John Moxley, the person, or is it John Moxley, the wrestler? Like, I think it seems like he's so deep into it now that, he doesn't know which one is real and what's not.
Yeah. I did, rewatching some of this, a big part of the story is Danielson sort of selling that he is breaking down a little as they go, that like it is
Yeah.
getting harder for him to get back up. His neck is hurting him more and more as Mox targets it. And we get to the point where this is a thing that Mox does on some of his matches. I know he did it with Darby Allin, he did it with Eddie Kingston, where he'll just say, "Don't you make me do this." Like, he'll give, and the person never backs down, and it just gets crazier from there. But in this case, Danielson spits in his face and slaps him. And so, all right.
An important character point, because it's basically his way of saying, a way of taking away his own agency in
Yeah.
this. It's his way of going, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah, if you gave up, this wouldn't be happening.
But if he gave up, Mox
point.
wouldn't respect him anymore either.
Yeah.
So it's like
So he loses either way.
Yeah.
Really.
He's presenting a lose-lose.
Sure.
So yeah, Mox gives him a gotch pile driver, and then locks him in a bulldog choke. And Danielson's back to his feet. He's reaching for the rope, can't quite get there, starts to slump down. Mox falls back and locks his legs around him to get the choke fully in, and Danielson's limp. Bryce touches his hand, touches his face, and then calls for the bell. And that's
A great
it.
match with an abrupt finisher. Yeah.
And the air all of the air in that arena just got sucked out. Like it was.
And then it got super sucked out.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so before we go into everything that happens next, that was an amazing match, and as much as I kind of wish there'd been maybe a little longer to check the unconsciousness, the idea of that just being like, all right, you can't get out, that's it. And honestly, the energy, the atmosphere of danger they built made me believe that, like, Bryce is like, oh, check, all right, I need to get air back to you, break the hold now. That, like, you would call the end of the match because you could believe, if he's in this hold for another few seconds, he's gone.
Yeah, I get that from a realistic standpoint, because obviously, like, if you were in that situation, you would want them to release it so that they can get air. But this is the culmination of someone's full-time in-ring career. I would have liked a dropping of the hand.
So
I think the drama of that, I think, would have sold it a lot for me, because with it, I get both, right? I get the story behind both of it, but like with it being such a culmination and saying like, okay, this is it, and if he loses, this is it, he's done. If he could have done the hand spot that everybody talks about, where he lifts the hand and then drops it, like you could have had that little bit of hope that maybe he was gonna catch the last one at the last minute, and then he doesn't. But I guess maybe that tells a different story. I don't know.
But I think that's what they were accounting for with why they did it, because it's a culmination of what Moxley's character currently is and what they're attempting to accomplish.
Yeah.
There is no grand moment. There is no big hope spot. It's just he snuffed out Danielson in his last full-time match just like that. Just in a very weird, abrupt moment.
No, you're right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing for you to feel as a grand memory. It's just it happened.
Yeah.
And if that sounds too sunny and optimistic for you, well, so I'm just going to kind of run through the summary of what happens after the match.
Yeah, you can just laundry list it. There's a lot that goes down.
Yeah, so you get the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club comes out, or I should say Claudio and Pac come out to rejoin, and Marina Shafir, who did get ejected at one point, comes out as well. Mox does take one moment to bow to Danielson. He does the touch forehead to the ground,
which felt insincere to me.
You can never quite be sure.
No, here's the thing. I think for Mox, the person, it was sincere. I think in character, it was insincere. That's what I feel.
But so he hands the belt to Claudio, and it immediately goes into a duffel bag, so you don't even see the championship anymore.
Yeah, they're holding it like a hostage.
He doesn't even look at it.
No.
He literally takes it from Bryce, doesn't look at it, and gives it to Claudio, who puts it in a duffel bag. Claudio doesn't even look at it.
Yeah.
They make it very apparent, and that is a choice that they are making to not look at it.
It's a prisoner.
It is a hostage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really good description.
And so they start beating on Danielson a little bit more, and then Darby Allin and Wheeler Yuta come running out to the ring, only for Yuta to hit Darby with a running knee. Marina Shafir duct tapes Darby into the corner by his wrists, and Mox hands Yuta the plastic bag. Danielson's gotten back to his feet, stumbles back into Yuta, and Yuta does it. Puts it over his head, holds him down and when he's done, he takes the bag off. Claudio folds a chair around Danielson's neck, and at a signal from Moxley, does a running stomp on it. At this point, finally, people come out to stop what we're seeing, and so
Jeff Jarrett tried first.
Yeah,
surprisingly,
a few people try to come in and Pac and Claudio knock them off the apron, but you have, I think it's Garcia, Cassidy,
Private Party,
Adam Cole, Private Party, Hooks out there. Essentially, just most of the locker room rushes the ring, and the BCC
baby
takes
face
off.
locker room. Yeah.
And so we close out the pay-per-view. Danielson is being loaded on a stretcher. The crowd is silent, has no idea what to do. Excalibur on commentary sounds like he's crying. And
BCC has just left through the crowd unceremoniously.
And you see Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Garcia sort of sitting by the barricade, just looking completely lost, no idea what to do. And that's how we go home for AEW WrestleDream.
So I've seen a lot of people compare this to
Thank you, Brian.
the end of Infinity War for Avengers.
Oh, sure.
Where Thanos, spoiler alert for Infinity War, you know, when the all is lost moment and half the people are gone and, you know, you're just left with like a scattering of heroes. And then that last final scene where Thanos is looking over the two suns and, you know, and then it just ends. Right? Like I remember very vividly how I felt at the end of that movie. And I do think a lot of people are comparing it to that, and I think it's apt just because that feeling was very similar to what I was feeling in that moment. Because, and maybe I don't know if this can lead into kind of our discussion about how we feel about it. Like, I've watched wrestling for on and off since I was 8, right? Danielson was the person that was like the consistent person when I got back into wrestling. And he was very much a figure of my weekly watching, right? And there was the whole yes movement that just really got everybody to just not just believe in him, but like want the best for him. And like you felt everything that he felt, right? So he made this connection with the crowd that was just like insane to me. And I, you know, grew up watching Stone Cold and The Rock and like all that. And, you know, they're very electrifying and, you know, just in their own way are very much like pillars of what wrestling is, right? When you think of wrestling, a lot of people say those people. But for me, it's Bryan Danielson. And so he's like hero status to me. So it's like when you're a kid and you see your parent and your parent gets hurt and you don't understand and you can't like process what that is. That's kind of how I felt. And I feel like that was my reaction in the moment. And that's why it evoked so much emotion out of me, because it was like seeing someone that like, you can't die.
Yeah.
Like that's not possible. My brain cannot register that this is actually happening. I know that you were telling me that this is going to happen eventually. I just didn't think in my mind that it was actually going to happen. So when it did, and when it did in such a violent manner, that evoked emotion. And I feel like that's what Danielson does. You know, like he put over so many people on his way out, right? He got literally taken out of the building, and everybody who's going to be these new stars, the new Avengers, right? Those are the people that are left, and those are the people that he's elevated. So it's like, it really kind of is a selfless act that on your way out, like, this is what you do. And I know, like, it's the end of his full-time career. I know that it's not like he's never going to be on our screens again.
Yeah.
I understand that there's going to be a build-up for him to come back and for him and Mox to do something, or for him and whoever to do something. But I think for me, that was what have made me so viscerally upset, because in my mind, I just couldn't compute it. Like, and then with all the stuff in the end, like, that stuff's just not really my jam, right? But that's what, let's see, how can I phrase it? I'm not saying that it's bad storytelling. I actually am arguing that it's really good storytelling, because it's making me feel the way that I'm feeling. Like when I watch a good movie that makes me cry, right? Like, I thought he was in danger. That's why I was lashing out. That's why I was telling them to stop, right? Like, because I actually believed that something was happening. In my mind, that is the best storytelling. So I'm not mad at the decision. I'm actually happy at the decision. It just made me feel. And I think that's what good wrestling should do. And it just made me sad. At the end of the day, like, you're watching someone that you've watched for years. Like that's it. That's it.
Yeah, it's a hard goodbye.
Yeah, and I mean, I wrote down a lot, but I kind of already said what I think I said. But like, he has such a connection with the crowd that I think that's why at the end of the show, I had heard from people who were there, no one actually believed that was the end.
Yeah.
Justin Roberts actually had to come on to the loudspeaker and be like, guys, the show's actually over. Like, you need to go. And that's when they started booing because they were like, no, we're supposed to, this isn't it. This isn't the end of it. And I think that's that's the reaction that he gets out of people.
Yeah.
Like, you care so deeply for this person that you're like, no, that's not how he's supposed to go out. But I think that makes the craziness of the BCC and way we're going forward even scarier, right? Because they haven't stopped.
Well, yeah, we're at a point where all of the major titles in AEW, actually not even major, all of the official company titles in AEW are being held by heels right now. Like, there is no baby faces currently wearing gold in AEW.
And I do think that is very intentional.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is the end of Infinity War, all is lost moment, right? Like, we don't know which way it's going to go, and we don't really see the light yet. And I think that's going to be what builds up to Endgame, right?
Yeah.
Like, when the baby faces do, conquer and do beat the bad guys, but we're not at that point yet.
Chris, what'd you think?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I like it.
I know I just spewed out for 20 minutes, but
No, I think it. See, I noticed. I know a lot of people were initially upset by what happened, and I think that they are forgetting the difference between. You know what it is? I mentioned it after we were watching it, sort of before my thoughts had crystallized properly, and it's the fact that you're forgetting that you can have more trust in the people writing the story than previous ones. And yeah. I can touch, and it's specifically WWE, and I can touch back on various eras where the most recent one would be, I mean, I'm not even going to talk about Roman Reigns, but it's like Brock Lesnar's more recent run, where you knew he would show up, and even though you tried to have hope, he would brutally dismember whoever he was in the ring with, and it would just end, and it would just be like another one bites the dust, and it was just, that was it. And that's kind of what that ending felt like, until I remembered who's writing this. It's not Vince McMahon. I can go back further. Like, the most despair I felt watching main events was during the height of Triple H's main events. Mm-hmm.
Meaning when he was a performer?
Yes. Yeah. When he was at the top, when it was Vince McMahon head of creative, those two lived to have moments that would disappoint people. It would be, even if Triple H was going to lose, it wouldn't be in a way that felt satisfying. It was it felt like the end of that show, but you knew that the people behind it meant it. Mm-hmm. Meant it in a way that it was like, I did this to make you unhappy. I'm not telling you a story. I want you to feel bad.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, right?
It is
that, they intentionally were like, no, we're going to do what we want to do, and we don't care how you feel, versus we're going to tell you a story that's going to evoke emotion from you.
And it's very important that, again, part of what Moxley's doing is that your boy doesn't get a good big goodbye. You don't get to chant, "Thank you, Brian." You don't get to see him wave and walk to the back. He destroyed your hero. He's being carted out, and that's it. And it speaks to something very interesting to me based on this and what happened on Dynamite is the BCC are tough. They are a big bad group, and they are a threat. But what's interesting is that specifically Mox and the group in general, they're all a bunch of violent cowards. Because you notice the moment that fight started evening up, that's when they ran. Yeah. Then that happened again on Dynamite, when there was a chance that people were regrouping and coming at them. Instead of adhering to this idea that this is, we're doing this to improve AEW and make them all, give them all that killer spirit. It was more, once the odds were less in their favor, they ran again.
It's like, in a dictatorship,
yeah.
right? They have like the big, huge productions where they have like a good promo that's like heavily produced, and you're seeing all these like people that are just sad and dejected and seeing Brian carted out, and then them in the background just in the back of a truck riding down the street somewhere, him saying like, okay, well, like if you join us, like, yeah, we'll welcome you in. If not, like, go hide.
Well, I said
Moxley is Bane from the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, it's basically like
he wants a chaotic hell pit to fight in. That's what he thinks is going to make AEW the best. Yeah. But he doesn't want to face any consequences for riling up everyone.
Yeah.
I said kind of jokingly on Wednesday that he's Mussolini with headlocks now, but he actually did cut a promo a couple of weeks back where he dropped the line that blood alone moves the wheels of history, which actually was
that is a line for
Was it really?
Which
yes.
I know because of a joke in The Office where Dwight is giving a speech at like a sales conference,
and they give him a Mussolini.
Jim
speech.
gives him a Mussolini speech with like a few words changed to like paper and salesman,
and it kills.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And Mox referenced that particular quote, and you said the Mussolini line.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I'm just gonna give my thoughts real quick. I know we've been going kind of long, and I'm gonna ask y'all to indulge me a little bit because I'm gonna get more personal than I usually do. I've been in kind of a rough spot emotionally for the last couple of months. Just work, other stuff going on, just kind of a fatigue, burned out feeling, and some days are tougher than others, but Saturday of WrestleDream was not a great day. Had not been in a great headspace coming in to see the show, and while I was ready to enjoy the match and watch some stuff like the Ospreay triple threat and all that stuff that I knew was going to be a lot of fun. I knew, okay, this night is going to end with one of the great wrestlers, a guy I've just always loved seeing. It's going to end with him losing. It's going to end with him failing, and however that happens, it's going to be hard to watch. And
they ripped that Band-Aid off hard, didn't they?
Yeah. And then so to have it end with him not just losing, but losing in such a he just failed then way, and then to be betrayed and beaten down and all that. And so in the moment of y'all were both with me. I was doing the thing where I just kind of verbalized thoughts without a coherent, logical cause-effect pattern.
And that's how you process. It's fine.
Yeah. But the thing that keeps coming back to me, separate from this being how Danielson wanted his story to end, or this part of his story to end, and separate from the fact that, like you said, I know the end game is coming, that there is, the heroes rising again. I do keep thinking of that last shot of Cassidy and Darby and Garcia just outside looking like they have no idea what to do. And I just think about that moment because I feel like, to trip a little pretentious here, but I think all of us are here because we believe wrestling can be an artistic form that tells powerful stories in the same way that any other form of theater or performance or storytelling can. And one of the things that art can do is connect us to other people emotionally, not just in a way that like, I'm feeling sad and I will watch a thing that makes me feel happy. It can be something that connects me to the sadness that another person is feeling and makes you feel not alone because someone else is feeling that same way at the same time. And it's not just a connection to a fictional character in a scripted story. It's a connection to the person, the performer telling that story and making it real. And having that moment, as hard as it was, I just keep thinking back to it and being like, it's okay that this is just how people feel sometimes, that it just feels like it's not going to be okay, and that it's going to be that there's just no coming back from something. And just to sit with that feeling for a moment, like it's hard and it's painful, but it's okay because that's part of life too. And then I can think, okay, but there is going to be a next chapter. There is going to be a comeback. There is going to be something.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's just to have that moment where they don't look like they're going to chase the BCC, that they're gonna go get revenge for Danielson. To just have a moment where everybody just sits with how hard this is. I really loved that moment, and I think that's.
Sometimes you have to do that. You just have to sit. You have to feel your feelings sometimes.
Well, and I think that shows, the grade A storytelling of not just how it was written, but just the way that it was executed as well. Like, brutal or not, like, it evokes it evokes any kind of emotion, much less like the loneliness and despair. Like that final shot that you were talking about, like that's a perfect example of that, right? And how sometimes you do just have to sit in that and figure out what the hell you're going to do, right? And that's, I think, going forward, like that is going to be fun to watch, but it's also makes it uncomfortable to watch at the same time. Like we were all having lots of different reactions to the ending of this, and I think that's a testament to, you know, where they are at the moment.
Yeah. The end of this show is why I watch wrestling and not UFC. If I just wanted to watch fighting, I'd just go watch fighting. I want to watch fighting with an interesting hook to it, and this is it.
Yeah.
And I say all that I said tonight as someone who is diehard, absolutely in love with the heroes winning and saving the day.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
And we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
But for right now, things are bad.
I do think right now I'm putting my money on Darby to be the one who ultimately dethrones Moxley.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think they're going to build him up to that, and honestly, I'm very here for that one.
So just to end on a slightly brighter note, this being the end of the full-time career of Bryan Danielson, what is everybody's favorite moment, just if you had to pick one, of Danielson and his run in professional wrestling?
WrestleMania 30. I mean, honestly, that's the only one that comes to my mind, just because that was the height of me watching. And I had followed that whole authority line bullshit story the entire way. And just the culmination of like, there's no way they're going to give it to him. They hate us. I hate everybody. Like, they're not going to actually give us what we want. And then for him the image of him holding up those two belts and the confetti coming down, like it just, that's a moment that I wasn't there physically for it, but I felt like I was, you know.
Chris?
I admire his ability to commit to everything that he's done, serious or not, because he's been very good at making dramatic moments, and especially good at being silly.
He made that eco-friendly belt work.
Yes,
man, like that was beautiful.
That was
belt.
a great combination of both.
Wood from a naturally fallen oak and sustainable hemp.
I just meant like the stuff like
Team Hell No and
that.
Oh yeah.
And on the smaller shows, like he was the recurring bit about how he desperately wanted to wrestle a bear.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Because that was a real thing that would actually used to happen way back in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to actually do it too.
Yeah, for me, I would say much as because Shelby took WrestleMania 30, I'm going to go with Kofi Mania, because that is him taking that moment that he got and, by all accounts, doing everything he could behind the scenes to make sure somebody else got that too.
I mean, it's what we were saying earlier about him uplifting people, right? Like you have those wrestlers that will do everything they can in a match to make the other person look good. I mean, that made Kofi's career.
Yeah.
Right. And it was because Danielson was gracious in defeat and made himself such a good heel for Kofi to beat.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great moment.
So I'm going to give I didn't read my score for the main event. I gave that one 4.5. Just really brutal, hard hitting. It hurt because we cared. And it sets the company off on a really strong note, I think, for the upcoming year. Y'all have any other final thoughts on the pay-per-view?
Well, I think we've all had some big feelings today.
We got real deep on this show, y'all.
That's what wrestling does for us.
I love it.
All right, so I give the pay-per-view as a whole 4.25 out of 5 final countdowns.
I mean, this one I think was probably Revolution aside, because I think being there is different from watching it at home. Honestly, this one was up there as my favorite of the year.
I think there have been matches or cards they've had that had stronger density of really high score matches, but this one, just where they set the company and where the stories are all going, there's almost nothing coming out of this, with the one exception of Jericho, that I'm not really hyped to see what they do.
I mean, I also measure how much I like the pay-per-view based off of how exhausted I am at the end, and this and Revolution, I was exhausted. So
Also, I didn't want to interrupt you guys because it seemed like you were really on a roll there, but the recorder actually shut off about 20 minutes ago. So if you guys could do that whole...
Shut up, David.
I gotta go. Have a good night,
swear to
everybody.
God.
I'm going to just finish this whole bottle.
Yeah, pour me another.
Please let me out of the therapy
kidding.
box.
I'm kidding.
Well, now I have to kill all of you to prevent witnesses.
Well,
Thank you, David. For
now we
that.
can break out the feelings puppets and
Yeah,
get in depth.
I had to break up the tension somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna need all you guys' credit card information because we just, I need to pay for that therapy session that we just had.
What were we talking about?
Exactly. We're wrapping up, I think.
Are we talking about Lost?
Oh, yeah. So
I really got to go.
the thing about Libby,
Oh God, no, we've been talking for so long. We're now in a different show on this network.
I can't keep up with my own network. All right, then. Well, Robert, did you have anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up?
let's see. I know there are other pay-per-views in the future, but I've lost track of where they are. So.
We have a takeover coming up,
Yes.
guys.
Oh, my God.
Oh my God, it's happening. So we have Halloween Havoc coming up at the end of this month, so October 27th.
That's weird timing.
I know, right? But I am very excited because Gina and I have not done a proper takeover in a very long time, and this is how we got started doing this show. It's takeover, so we're very excited. So I'm focused on that one. I know there's probably other ones, but yeah. We at least have a takeover.
All right.
Love it. Well, Robert, if people want to reach out to you online or follow you online, where can they do that at?
My fingers are dug into the crumbling cliff ledge that is X, formerly
Still don't
Twitter.
understand why you do that.
At
But
RedbeardRob17, mainly because I don't want to try to find
Masochism.
everybody.
that's fair.
I don't want to go to a new platform and find where everybody is again.
Yeah.
Shelby, what about you?
So I'm actually joining in on the Chris response. I'm off of social media at the moment. I'm taking a hiatus just because it's become too much. And with if you guys are in the U.S., you know that we have an election coming up.
We do?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. You haven't heard about it at all. And it gets crazy over here. And I've just decided to take a break. But also on that note, go vote.
Amen. Chris, do you have anything you want to plug?
Please let me go home.
Okay.
No, you are here forever.
Well, you can follow me online on Instagram at DB Hensley. If you are an old school Lost fan or you just feel like getting into it for the first time, Robert and I, along with producer Kara, are doing a spinoff of Long Walk Talks called Long Walk Talks Lost. We are 5 episodes in, going weekly. New episodes are released every Wednesday night where we cover 3 or 4 episodes of Lost. We're currently still in the first season.
So good.
If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more episodes or to see more of our original work or past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
And folks, if you're listening to this, you probably love pro wrestling too, but whatever your art is, whatever you need from it, if you have the pleasure of sharing it with some people that you love, well then when that bell rings, you are going home a winner. Thank you for listening to This Is a Work.
I'm going to go take a nap.
Wham, bam, what the fuck happened?